One. Hi. Welcome everyone to the first episode of the Bigger Than Athletes podcast, a podcast that dives into the unseen side of Division I student athlete life. My name is Jason Smith, and I'm your host. I am a current Division I soccer player here at Utah Valley University, and I'm majoring in communications. The purpose of this podcast is to uncover the stories of athletes across different sports and their experiences both on and off the playing surface. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Our first guest is Abel Mendoza, a freshman midfielder from Las Vegas, Nevada, on the Utah Valley men's soccer team. Welcome, Abel.
Hey, Jason. Thanks for having me. I'm glad being here.
We're glad to have you as well. How are you doing? How's life?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Just got back from break. It was a really great break. Had a good time with family.
Good, man. Glad you had a great time. Let's just dive right into it. Let's hear your early life story. Of course, you're from Las Vegas, Nevada. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so I was born in Riverside, California, but I was raised in Las Vegas my whole life. I'm a family of four, so I have my two parents and a younger brother. Basically, we lived in Vegas our whole lives, like I said. I started playing soccer when I was 6, and ever since then, I just kept playing the sport. Started off playing for a little in a Mexican league, and it was fun. Then transferred to club to Heat FC from Las Vegas, and once from there, I went to Vegas All Boys after a couple of years, and from Vegas All Boys, I had the opportunity to play with LVSA, 03 Silver, which was probably my best soccer club years that I had. A very great team I played for. We won U.S. Youth Nationals. It was a great experience, And from that team, I did get scouted to the Real Salt Lake Academy, which moved up to Herriman a few years ago. And my sophomore year of high school, I went to Utah Valley. I went to Utah, Herriman, Utah, to play for the Real Salt Lake Academy. I spent my sophomore through senior year there. Started off, overall, it was a great experience. I really enjoyed the coaching staff, and it really helped me develop my game, And while I was there, I did get scouted. I went to a national team camp. Very great experience. I loved it all. And then went to West Point and transferred to Utah Valley, and that's where we are right now.
Definitely. Yeah. Thanks for sharing your whole life story there. It's been a winding story for you, of course, not just straight up, but taking you very different places, both on the East Coast, Utah, still in Las Vegas. And sounds like a lot of great experiences. But when did you really start to really think you could be when would you first say you wanted to become a college athlete, a professional athlete? And when did you really realize that, okay, I'm good enough and I can do this at this level?
I think I did realize that after my second year at the academy. I was playing probably my best games there, really enjoying it and everything. And I did train with Monarchs a couple of times. Real Monarchs is Real Salt Lake's second team. And, I was determined and to become pro, and that was my main goal throughout my years there. And it is difficult. So, you always have to have a backup plan. And my backup plan was college if it didn't work out. So at around probably 16, 17, I decided if I don't go pro, I'm going to go to college.
Definitely. Yeah. What would you say when you were like a kid, when you were playing in those Mexican leagues? Was that when you first really wanted to start playing professional soccer?
I think at first it was just for fun, like my parents did struggle, and them taking me to my games was kind of helpful towards them and their goals in life. it just motivated them to like give me everything. So it did start off as just fun, but then once they transferred me to club soccer to LVSA, that's when I realized, what, like I'm good enough.
Hmm.
And my goal was to just go pro from there.
Right. Would you say that because of your parents' sacrifices and really prioritizing your soccer career at a young age in that way, even just when it was for fun, is that a driving factor and motivation for you right now as a player?
Yeah, my parents have given me everything. Like they've sacrificed a lot for me, a lot to like give me everything I need to play the sport. Traveling wasn't easy, it was expensive playing for club. So I mean, but they were always there and they always found a way, and it just motivated me to push myself.
100%. The parents are the real MVPs. They do a
Yeah,
lot. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. So going on from that, in terms of course, you went on and had a lot of great success at the club level in terms of the local area, as well as then gain national recognition with LVSA. Um, how was that transition from kind of paying for club soccer, transitioning now more into the Real Salt Lake Academy? Did your parents ever have to pay for that, or was that a full expenses paid operation?
Yeah, so at club my parents did have to pay money, but fortunately I was fortunate enough to join Real Salt Lake, and I had no expenses like at all. They paid for everything, traveling, food,
Hmm.
school, they paid for everything. And it was a great experience. Like obviously it took the financial burden off my parents, but I think like them paying for everything just made me more grateful, like, and it motivated me to like give everything for the club, for Real Salt Lake, and just like try my best, like do my best hard work.
Definitely, it's almost a fascinating kind of identity shift where your parents have been paying for your soccer career and for your travel, all that stuff, and so you have, of course, you already have the connection with your parents in terms of they're your parents, they love you, they support you in all that you do. Now you have a new kind of identity of a bigger power that is now doing a very similar job of paying for all your expenses, which then creates that connection that you didn't really have before of, wow, these people love me and invest in me, and I want my best for them.
Yeah, yeah, it makes you feel like they're giving everything for you, and you have to give everything back to them, like for the club. Just do your best.
Of course, definitely. So as you moved away, you were 15 years old or 16 years old when you went to Real Salt Lake?
16.
16.
Yeah.
So of course, moving away from home at 16 years old, most people move away at 18 years old to go to college. That's a pretty life-changing experience. How is that as a 16-year-old moving to a whole new state?
Um, it wasn't as tough as like many people would think, and I have to thank my parents for that. They raised me to be very independent,
Mhm.
and there was times where it did become difficult for me, just being away from family, not being able to spend weekends with them, enjoying meals with them. Um, but I did like enjoy that freedom kind of, like it allowed me to explore myself, like really find myself as a person, as a player, and what I wanted in life. And yeah, I think having that opportunity really allowed me to become the person I am today.
Definitely. Yeah, being in a whole new environment at 16 years old is going to force you to mature. And luckily, seem to be pretty prepared going in with your parents and how they mold you into the person that you are. And of course, there's always hard patches, both as an athlete and as a person, being away from home and dealing with that. But how would you say you really developed as a player during your time at Real Salt Lake?
I think I developed technically and tactically a lot. I during my training sessions, the coaches really broke down the game and explained like what they wanted and what the solution was to our problems. And I did have the confidence to ask like any questions at any time. If I was confused about something, the coaches were always helpful. And it it really improved my game, and it allowed me to explore the type of player that I wanted to be, because there's different types of roles during games, different types of players, and it just allowed me to find myself to being more of that eight, center mid eight, position. And yeah.
Right. So how would you say that compared to your time at Las Vegas or at that time where you were still playing club at a very high level? How would you say being an environment of like an academy, how is that different compared to that other time?
Well, environment's different because obviously there's more pressure on you to perform well.
Mhm.
If you don't perform well, then I think what I'm trying to say is like there's pressure from both like clubs, but at the academy level, if you don't perform well, you have the possibility of losing your spot and them replacing you, and you're back to square one. So it was tough mentally and physically. You wake up earlier than usual, and we did train twice a day. So just mentally, it was draining. Physically, it was draining as well. But you have to understand like why you're there and what your goals are. So the transition was tough, but my goals kept me grounded and motivated me to push through daily.
100%. Having your why, almost like same with your parents and your goals of push on to the professional level are things that get you through those tough times. And I couldn't agree more with my experience being at the varsity academy in a very similar situation, leaving 1 year after you when I was 16 as well. Um, you're engulfed in a soccer environment. You're engulfed in soccer 24/7. You walk outside, you have a beautiful training facility to be at. And from the outside, it looks like soccer heaven almost for every little kid. You're like, oh, I can always go out and play. I can always go out and train. But kind of when you get there, you get the pressures of my parents are doing all the sacrifice for me to be here. This club is putting all these resources in me. If I don't perform, one, I could lose my spot on the team if I don't play well. I could be benched. But even if you don't perform well from there, your lifespan as a player could be 1 year, 6 months there. They could be like, okay, I'm done with you. Moving on to the next person. That replacement factor, like you said earlier, is definitely something that's always looming in the back of your mind.
Yeah, no, yeah. I agree, and being in that environment, you did see that with your teammates, and it was just like, wow, like this is it. Like it's either you do everything you can to perform or you're out.
Definitely. How would you relate that to when you go back home and you're talking with your old club teammates, talking about the glory days, talking about, okay, maybe you guys have moved on different paths. How would you say you now relate to your teammates being in a new environment where it's so cutthroat compared to like, do you see a difference in their mentality or like how they play soccer still, if they are still playing, or what's that experience like?
Yeah, well, when I do go back home, like I do spend time like with my friends and we just catch up. And most of them aren't playing anymore, they started working, trying to help their families out, soccer. It was fun, when we were young. We loved the sport, and then obviously we still do, but it comes a time where you have to pick between your sport and then helping your family. And it's tough seeing my friends just having to work now when all of them obviously had the goal in mind to become pro.
Mm.
And it makes me like thankful for what I have and the opportunity I have.
Of course, yeah, definitely blessed to be Division 1 athlete and still pushing towards the dream.
Yeah.
It's a very selective process, and not many people get there. So it's always good to remind yourselves of that for sure. Um, yeah, can you dive in a little bit? If it's okay, can we dive a little bit more into your personal life in terms of significant others? Yeah, you've had a long-term girlfriend that you've been away for a long time. How have you dealt with being in a long-term relationship, long distance for almost 6 years straight?
Yeah, 6 years is a lot. I mean, it feels like the time it's only been 3, but it was difficult at first, moving to Herriman, Utah for the Real Salt Lake Academy. We did have trouble at first, like on the communication side, and since like different time frame, it just like it was difficult to find the right time to talk to each other, to FaceTime each other, because she worked a lot and I was always soccer 24/7. But I mean, we got through it. We talked about it, like, and I'm just grateful, because she could have just decided, what, this is too much, and ended it. And we both decided to work through it, and we're here now, 6 years strong.
That's amazing. Yeah, find the person who's there, who's willing to stick through these difficult times for the right person. And obviously, you guys have sacrificed a lot, but are coming off the other side, and where you're still doing long distance, but you've really improved your skills with communication and time management, and being finding ways to care for each other even when you're apart. It's really great to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we finished off your senior year at Real Salt Lake in 2020, 2021. So right in the middle of COVID. Could you explain kind of your recruiting process as you were trying to find colleges through the pandemic?
Yeah. The recruiting process for me was, I mean, very difficult. Obviously, like COVID just didn't help at all. It made things worse. And a lot of colleges were just not recruiting at the time, you know? And so I was fortunate enough to have West Point, which is located in West Point, New York. And that's the military academy. They reached out to me, and the coach, Russell, at the time, was really interested in me and came out to one of our GA Cup games in Herriman, Utah. And he just let me know, like, hey, like, we're really interested in you, and we want you to play at West Point. And I mean, it's a great opportunity, So I said, yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't have the test scores for it to go like straight through. So what they have is a prep school. It's called United States Military Academy Preparatory School, and I had to spend a year there before I could get before I could go downhill, which is what they call it, the academy. And I was playing co-ed there. I mean, first of all, the environment was amazing. The people were amazing. Basic training was tough, mentally and physically. And I enjoyed all of it except the military part. I mean, it's tough because all my life, my main focus has been soccer and school, like getting an education, and adding that third part, military part, was just it was it was difficult for me. And I mean, obviously being away from home, like on the East Coast, was also difficult. So I mean, the different time zones also didn't help. I wasn't able to talk to my family as much as I wanted, and it was tough. I mean, it's an amazing opportunity, and I'm lucky that I did give it a chance, but obviously it's not what I wanted, and I decided to transfer to Utah Valley University.
Yeah, that's just a fascinating story, but there's way more than one way to go about things. Would you say that your mentality as a person or your mental fortitude really increased or grew after being at the Army Academy, and like dealing with basic training camp and stuff like that? Do you feel like that really shaped you as a person at all, or just kind of really just an overall negative experience?
Now, overall, it was a great experience. I mean, they did put you like under a lot of pressure. They yelled at you right in front of your face, and like you can't like smile or anything. And it is difficult, but it did help me build that mental toughness to like push myself, like to tell myself that I can do this. And they did focus on a lot of teamwork, teamwork, teamwork. And it did help me become a better leader for myself and like for the people around me. So yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, those are great attributes to learn, especially from an environment like the Army, where it's just continually building stronger people and stronger soldiers at the end of the day. But even in the case where you come back and outside that, still has a lot of turnover into benefiting other parts of your life. Yeah. So yeah, you transferred to UVU in January. What was that process like, packing up everything on the East Coast, coming back home, and coming to Utah again?
Yeah. I think I did have a few months to myself, when I left West Point before going to Utah Valley University. And at that time I was just honestly just chilling with my family, just enjoying time, because East Coast is far away from the West Coast. And so I just wanted to enjoy my family. And then transferred in January, like you said. I went to Utah Valley and did preseason and everything. I enjoyed it all. I was mentally ready to get started. And unfortunately, I had my injury, uh, which was tough. It was early in the season and it just kind of like killed my determination.
What was the injury?
Yeah, so I partially tore my left hamstring. Um, and then I came back a bit too soon, probably like a month later, and I ended up tearing my right one. So I was out for most of the season. And then, yeah, it was just mentally draining, and my self confidence wasn't the same. Like it wasn't the same throughout that season. I struggled a lot with my academics, and I just wasn't like motivated at all. I just questioned myself, like, is this really what I want? Should I keep going? Like, or am I just wasting my time? Like, am I ever going to be the same athlete again?
Mm,
And yeah, just asking yourself those questions, it's tough.
definitely, yeah. So I wouldn't say I've faced the same type of fortitude that or difficulties and adversity of dealing with a long term injury like that. It takes out almost your whole spring season, and for you especially, where you've come off 3 or 4 months at the Army Academy, not playing any games really competitively at a high level, to come into the spring where you have a few chances to come here and play and sustain an injury. So you're going through almost a full year of not playing really any competitive games since your days at the RSL Academy. I bet just take a huge toll on your self confidence and knowing who you are and your identity as a player and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But injuries are part of the game. I think that's one of the bigger things that people don't really see about college athletes. They see kind of the glitz, the glamour of being a top social status aspect of campus, where they're kind of glorified, put on a pedestal, and now they're when they don't really see the adversity of dealing with a long term injury. So, like you said, you struggled. How'd you really get through that? Did you rely on your friends? Did you rely on your family, girlfriend? How'd you really get through that time together?
Um, it was a lot of my family, my friends, and also my athletic trainer. She gave me a plan to do throughout the summer. She was just really determined to help me, and I wasn't as determined throughout the summer.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just like I was gaining a little more confidence, a little more determination, but it was just tough. I was working throughout the summer, and I don't want to say I couldn't find the time, but my schedule was all over the place. Obviously, like it sounds like an excuse, and it 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 does sound like an excuse. And to be honest, like I think I am just making that excuse. I think I could have been more self-disciplined throughout the summer, which then led to me dealing with like feeling my hamstring in the beginning of the fall semester and telling myself, what, like maybe take it back a couple steps, relax, and like ease into it, which did affect my fall season. Um, and I didn't play as many games as I would like, but I did look to my parents for help. My parents helped me a lot. They told me if this is really what you want to do, then you got to put your mind to it and grind.
Mm-hmm.
I did ask my girlfriend, and she's always backed me up. She's always been there to support me, and she told me straight up, like, you got to do this. Like, this is what you want to do. Like, this is what you want to do. My teammates have also like been there. They've been supporting me, and I really appreciate it, every single one of them. And yeah, like I think that's what's helped me the most to get through this.
Yeah, it really takes a village in order to support an individual and get them to where they need to be. If you want to
Yeah.
go, if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you go together. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a very, very important thing to lean on others if you're struggling, and also for any athletes out there who are going through those fortitudes. I feel like they don't have anybody to talk to that you are supported. You have family, friends, and other people who are there and want to help you and support you. And it's very hard to deal with alone. So make sure that if you're ever struggling, both from a physical standpoint or mental standpoint, and just hurting, to really take into account that you have people around you to help you out. So, like you said, Abel, kind of moving on from the beginning of the fall season, you were able to come back and get your first college games. How was that experience, and were there any notable achievements from your first season as a college athlete?
Uh wow, like after my second game, I believe, came in probably six, like in the first half with 5 minutes left to go, and then the second half started and we got a goal right away around like after 3 minutes, and it was my first like collegiate goal. And honestly, it felt amazing. Like words can't describe what I was feeling when I scored that goal, you know. It was after all the suffering and that I've been through and everything that I've been through, you know, and to come this far, it's great. It's amazing. It feels good, and it just reminds me that it's possible, and you know, like this is why you do what you do.
Yeah, that little when you've been underwater for so long, you've been pushed underwater, you're stealing, and you're just trying to get a little gasp of air, that little just boom, that feeling of just everything's working out, and you've experienced so much adversity and hardship. And for me, I was on the bench that game. I had a concussion, and I saw you score, and I saw your immediate reaction. And what was your first celebration?
Honestly, like I was just throwing my hands up back and forth, like grabbing my shirt, like you know, I was just pumped, you know, I just didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
I was just grabbing the crest, you know, like this is the team, like this is where I want to be, and you know, I play for the crest on the chest.
100%. My favorite part of your celebration was running over to our athletic trainer, Mass, and then giving her the biggest hug I've seen somebody give her, and just seeing that you
Yeah,
spent so much time together, working, rehabbing, and she's the first person you run to.
yeah, you know, I have to give a huge thanks to our athletic trainer, Madison Almdahl. You know, she's done a lot. She's believed in me, and I believed in her and what she could do, and you know, it paid off.
Right. Yeah. And that's all it takes. How would you rate your season after that goal in terms of how the team did, as well as your own individual performances? What's kind of your reflection on the season, and what are you looking forward to for next fall?
Yeah, overall, I think my performance was well. You know, I did get my first collegiate goal. I felt like I could have done a bit more and maybe got a few assists, you know, but it was me just easing back into things, you know, and just getting used to it, getting used to the game, playing more minutes. The team overall did well, you know. We had a shaky start to the season, but you know, I believed throughout the whole season, throughout the first few games, you know, that we could make it, we could win. And luckily enough, through our hard work and discipline, we made it to the WAC tournament. And unfortunately, we were out in the first round. But you know, it is a very young team, a lot with huge potential, and I think we could do great things next season.
Definitely. What do you say are some of your goals for next fall, personally?
Uh, Definitely get more than one goal. Probably maybe like four or five, and
Okay.
then probably four assists as well. You know,
Okay.
and then team goals would be to win the WAC, you know, the WAC season, and then win the WAC tournament, and you know, win the NCAA tournament. You know, if everything goes well.
100%. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just want to thank you, Abel, for your time and being able to share all the parts of your story, both the highs and the lows. And I wish you the best of luck with your finals coming up and finishing your classes off. And just want to thank you for being the first participant of the Bigger Than Athletes podcast.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason. Like I said, like I'm happy to be here. You know, it's a great experience. It's also my first podcast, and I'm lucky enough to have done it with you.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah. So thank you for listening to the first episode of the Bigger Than Athletes podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave a like, subscribe for more content. I'm your host, Jason Smith, and thank you.